time for Nerdy for 30, the podcast where we talk about nerdy-ish movies for 30-ish minutes. My name is Kevin Bauer, aka the Critic's Choice. With me as always, the People's Champ, Tim Keck.
Yeah, buddy.
And today we are continuing this summer of X-Men by talking about the second Wolverine solo movie, The Wolverine. Tim, what did you think about this movie?
This honestly, it's a lot more fun than I remembered. There are fun parts of this. I remember the train fight's pretty cool. The first half with like homeless Wolverine is great. The fighting at the end is pretty cool. There's a lot of fun stuff in it, but there is kind of a bummer overall. It is just like it's not good, but there are peaks in this thing. I remember being disappointed in the moment, and watching it now, I'm not as disappointed as I thought I would be, but I'm also not loving it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm right there with you. It's like going out and you get a bunch of ingredients to make something and you're like, I like all these ingredients. This will be really good. And you put them all together. And for some reason, it just doesn't have that thing. It just doesn't have that extra something special to make it really sing. I mean, I even like the director, James Mangold is great. He did Ford v Ferrari. That movie rules. It's so good. Also completely stunned rewatching this at how many movies this movie inspired. Tim.
Oh my God.
I started a list of all the movies that this movie inspired. Go with me on this. In order, Oppenheimer, The Revenant, Bullet Train.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Blade Runner. These are all movies who have scenes that were lifted directly from The Wolverine. Oppenheimer starts off with the nuclear explosion. Check. The Revenant, Wolverine out there fighting a bear in the woods. I guess he doesn't really fight the bear, but he does kill it.
He loves the bear.
He loves the bear. He's
bear
very
boys.
sad that he had to kill the bear. They're bear boys. You know, you go out there, when you hit that point in your life, you head out to the woods, you find yourself a bear boy.
Become boys with the bears.
Become boys with the bears. Like Goldilocks before you. You turn to the bears. They're your family now.
Goldilocks had it right. She got it. She got. You know what? Don't get me started again on how much Goldilocks had. She got
God damn it! I opened up a can of worms this time.
Goldilocks clutch. Okay, so yeah, it did. There's a lot of iconic things in this that are strung together with duct tape in a way that's pretty unsatisfying. You know, there's some weird stuff in this one. I'll say right off the bat, we're getting this Jean Grey stuff, which I know we've talked about every time. It's weird. He shouldn't be this hung up on Jean Grey. It's strange. No. Also, he's 200 years old, right? You think he would have done this before. And you know what? At the end of the movie, when he meets he's met this girl who's beautiful, and they've had their passionate moments. They resolved this thing together. They formed a relationship, and she's like, "Are you going to come visit?" And he's like, "Nah, I'm done. I'm out. You know, I'm a Jean Grey guy, and that's it for me." I fell in love with this girl who was she's like, "Oh yeah, how long were you and Jean Grey together?" And he's like, "No, we weren't. She was with Cyclops for a long time. And I pined after her. And now Mariko is just like, this is kind of pathetic. I'm gonna move on for me. I'm like the Emperor.
Yeah, man, she gets the ick. Wolverine, shocking and legendary simp. I mean, absolutely the biggest simp in the X-Men. This guy told Scott in, what was it, X2, in the end of X2, this guy told Scott it was you. In the end, it was you. And yet he is the one seeing Jean in the afterlife. Cyclops is also dead, and he's the one that's seeing Jean in the afterlife.
Cyclops is done so dirty in all those movies. It's crazy.
Brutal.
And he's dead in this. I kind of thought they were going to pretend X3 didn't happen, but this reaffirms like, yes, X3 happened. X3 is canon. This is what we're sticking with. And Wolverine is now just off in the wilderness, living homeless. I don't know how he's paying his bills. I mean, he's buying food somehow. Or maybe he's not. Maybe he's just hunting it and been wearing the same clothes forever. I dig that, though. I love homeless Wolverine. He's a badass. We could have explored that more. I think there's a lot cooler stuff we could have done in this. Why does he go to Japan? He goes there because his friend wants to take advantage of him, basically. But what motivates Wolverine to go there? He's forced to go there. And then the debate is he going to give up, quote unquote, immortality? And of course he's not. Why would you? You get to just nobody would do that. 200 years, like at 200 years, I don't think he's having you're not having a break. He also can't remember all of it. You know, he got brainwashed, whatever, 30 years ago. So he's not even. When was the first movie to hear? It was like 2020. So it's been 10 years. So he forgot everything. And then he has like 15 years worth of memories. You're not killing yourself after that. You're not ending it all. Like, why would you do that over some girl who you never even kissed? Well, I guess they kissed, maybe, but
they did. Yeah. In X-Men 3, while they were both exploding, they
never held hands.
Never held hands. Didn't have hands at that point. Didn't have hands to
just
hold.
Claws.
You know what else is funny about this? The immortality thing is. This is, I mean, okay, let's say that this is set. If Last Stand canonically happened in like 2007, let's say this is what, like 2012, right? 2011 or 12. It's been like 5 years. When would we say Logan takes place? Because it has to be when Professor X is still alive. So maximum, we're talking like 2030. But you're pulling up the exact time, aren't you?
But he's dead. He's dead in X3. So Logan takes place in a world that X3 did not happen.
But theoretically, Xavier would still have to be alive. Like Logan would have had to take place in a time when Xavier's lifespan could have realistically still been happening. It can't be like 2200 because there's no way Xavier's alive in the year 2200. It has to be like within Xavier's normal lifespan. My point is, by the time Logan rolls around, it's like 20 years later, his healing factor is already going away. This guy wasn't going to live forever. This guy was already dying just slowly. The immortality thing was just going to like maybe rob him of another 15 years.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Okay.
It was already going
this,
away.
I think, is another thing, which is in this movie, the claws are such a weird misstep that like at the end of the movie, he gets his claws cut off, his metal claws. Yeah. And all I'm thinking about are the logistics of this. It's not even shocking. It's like disappointing. It's just, okay, well, then how does he get his claws back? You know, there was no, oh, no, is he going to die? It was just, OK, explain to me the logistics of how you correct this fuck up that you guys just made in the Wolverine. You know, like there was no, I don't know. It was shock, but it was disappointment. He does the claw thing. I feel like the Wolverine character, his reason to go to Japan, like in the comics, is to tame his like feral side. Yeah. You know, and to learn discipline. And he trains as a samurai to try and overcome his like base animal instincts and discover honor and like get in touch with his humanity. And we know from the comics, again, I don't know if it's really spoken about in the movies, but the adamantium does hold back his healing factor because the adamantium is poisoning him, right? I forget if this was a part of Logan or not, but you could assume in Logan, part of the reason why he's deteriorating so much is because of the adamantium. And maybe if that's gone, maybe his healing factor would amp up as it has in the comics. There was like a whole bit with like weird feral Wolverine, like after he had the adamantium ripped out of him. Yeah, I think that's a story. I don't know how they would set it up. Maybe they have Magneto do this thing to him, maybe an X3 or whatever it is. But him losing his claws, losing the metal in that way, and then getting a super amped up healing factor and then going to Japan, I think could be a much more compelling story than him. He's just kind of drifting through this story. And all of the motivation is coming from the bad guy. Yeah. Oh, my God, dude. Doesn't really care.
The perfect time to do this would have been Last Stand when he was already dissolving because of Jean. You could have Jean dissolve the adamantium off him, but that part doesn't grow back. Boom. There you go.
And he bone claws her?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden
It's the
he's like
only
getting
time
more feral.
I'm-
He's getting more beardy. He's like out in the woods doing stuff.
I had a joke that I self-edited out that I'm right on the fence with whether or not I should have said it.
Do it.
It's the only time it would have gotten to Bone Jean Grey.
Oh man, I don't know why you're holding that back. I mean, I say worse shit all the time. It's sweet. That's very it's very cute of you, Kevin.
It's the most crass joke I've ever made on air.
Very innocent. That's cute. Okay.
Oh my
God. Oh, speaking of like crass, I remember I wrote down this one. I remember they like mentioned they have Viper in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's like they just make a bunch of objectifying jokes about Viper where it's like, oh, that's my doctor or whatever. And Wolverine's like, nice work. And he's like, yeah. And they give like each other like a bro thumbs up. And then later in the movie, they're like, I wrote down Viper, immune to poison, lesbian, pretty cool. Like they go out of their way to say that she is a lesbian. I think this is also not the time when it's like, okay, we're building, beautiful, open-minded relationships. It's like, this girl's into girls. That's hot. And I just thought that was a little weird and wouldn't happen nowadays. But I remember at the time being like, yeah, pretty cool, pretty chill. Immune to poison, likes girls. I dig it.
I wish why is immune to poison one of your like positives there as like 20-year-old Tim Cack? You're like,
it's just the
what
only
I want when I'm just flipping through a Maxim magazine is when they denote that one of the centerfolds is immune to poison. Guess what, boys?
Oh my God.
It's so
SI
fucking
swimsuit issue. Marissa Miller loves Led Zeppelin, immune to poison, kissed a girl once. Tim's in.
Wow. I wish you were wrong. I do think you're right. I don't think this came from like representation. I think this came from like, them just making the most objectifying choices possible. Her costume,
100%.
like her costume is just straight up like, it's like halfway between like a latex cat suit and something that somebody in Mortal Kombat would wear. Like there's no function.
Yeah, it's strange. Do you think how many grandchildren of friends has Wolverine hooked up with?
Oh my God.
How many generations of family has he? Like, what's the biggest gap? He's been around since the Civil War. Does he have a friend from the Civil War?
Oh my God.
Has he hooked up with a great grandchild? Is it just grandchildren? How many generations removed do you think he's actually gotten with as far as friends to family lovers?
I think it's happened more than once. I think there's definitely been a moment where, I want to believe, I don't think he does it on purpose, but I do want to believe that there's been a moment where Wolverine hooked up with somebody. And then when he was putting his pants on to leave the next morning, he looked over at the nightstand and saw a photo of someone he recognizes. But you would also have to imagine he can't wade in that water twice because the risk would be too high that he would like accidentally have a love child. And it would just get weird. Like the Civil War, like we're talking about times when there was not substantial birth control.
Right. The 90s.
The 90s.
Wolverine was going nuts. Yeah, it is strange. And I did think it's so funny to me that he's hooking up with this girl who, this is a weird age gap. I will say it's like his friend's grandchild. And she looks young. She's beautiful, but it does feel a little weird when it's happening.
Yeah.
Because Wolverine looks old in this. I think this is like the beginning of Wolverine leaning into being an older guy, I think. And he hooks up with this girl who is engaged to somebody else. After they hook up, Wolverine finds this guy who is fooling around with strippers, and he lectures the guy on how he's not an honorable person, even though Wolverine has already cheated with the fiance.
Yeah.
Incredible
Dude,
stuff. And I remember as a kid being like, yeah, go get him, Wolverine. And I think at some point you're like, oh, it's because he loves her. This is a real, genuine thing. But then at the end of the movie, he's like, see ya. I'm getting on your plane. I don't even know where I'm going. I just got to get out of here, away from you. They're like, which direction are we flying? He's like, let's just get in the air and see what happens. And it's like, that's not how planes work, Wolverine. That is not how planes work. They're not helicopters. They can't just hover in space. What do you want them to do? Just circle over Japan for like a few hours while you figure out if you want to go east? You know,
my God, dude.
It's crazy. Wolverine is out of pocket in most of this movie, I think.
Completely. Simp, fuckboy. Like, what isn't he in this movie?
I also love he shows up and he's homeless Wolverine. And then they do a pretty classic bathtub scene.
Yes.
Where he's cleaned.
We have the same note.
and they're rubbing his feet and all that stuff. And he's washed. And I'm thinking, oh, he's going to come out in a kimono. They're going to provide him clothes. Nah, he's Wolverine again. Instantly. Wife beater, open shirt, flannel, jeans, hair up, mutton chops. He is back.
The idea
back to work
that they washed this man, cleaned him up, got out the shaving cream and a razor, and gave him those mutton chops again is fucking preposterous. They had pomade on hand. Sorry, they had pomade on hand to give him the little ear horns.
Yeah.
Like, dude, Jesus.
Oh my God. Wild. So wild. I did want to ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you think of Wolverine as a soldier? Because it seems like the moral of this is like pretty, we know who you are. You're a soldier. And I feel like that's kind of accurate and also kind of not accurate at all. But I don't know. What do you think? Is the MCU version of Wolverine a soldier first and foremost? He might be.
I don't think so. Even when we saw him in the montage in Wolverine Origins, he and Sabretooth didn't really seem very soldierly. Even in the Weapon X stuff, it's like they've brought them in a helicopter to a place where they are now supposed to kill people. But nothing they're doing seems very like trained or very like well planned. I think the other X-Men actually seem more like soldiers. If we look at the X-Men 3, The Last Stand Danger Room scene in the beginning, everybody is like calling out formations and, trying to respond. They're taking cover. They're trying to figure out how to attack the Sentinel. Wolverine's just kind of strutting around, lighting cigars off burning cars. Like, he really does not have any kind of like a soldier vibe to him. Do you think of him as a soldier?
I don't know. He does shirk the responsibility of leadership, which is kind of a theme for him. He's never the leader of the X-Men. When he is, it's against his will and he doesn't want it. I don't know if he's the guy that comes up with plans. He's the guy who maybe goes off book and does these things. I'm wondering if in this iteration of him via X-Men Origins, if they're kind of showing the thing of he's a kid, he's scared, he runs away, he joins the army, he becomes a soldier, and then he just is a soldier for years and years and years in war, and he just wants orders, he just wants to be told what to do, and then the Team X stuff goes wrong, and he's like, I'm not taking orders from anybody anymore. And then since then is like more of not like an anti-hero, more of like a rebel without a cause, as opposed to like, yes, sir, how high? Because they ask him to do things all the time and he just says no and just does whatever he wants. They're like, can you show him how to do this danger room thing? And he's like, I don't care. I'm smoking a cigar, like I don't know if that's soldier characteristics there.
No, not in the slightest. I think you're right. I think that's a good read. And then that also makes sense by the time he gets here. That fits the whole thing they're doing is like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like a ronin thing, right? Where isn't like a ronin like a samurai that doesn't have a master or doesn't have like a guiding principle anymore. So I remember they always refer to Wolverine when he was in Japan as like Ronin Wolverine. And I think that's what we're supposed to see him as in this movie.
But then the bad guy is trying to force the idea of being a soldier on him, like a good soldier. It's your turn to die for the greater good. And I'm your master in this scenario. And you should sacrifice yourself for me. I don't know. There's something there, I guess.
Also, a weird thing to demand just because, like, he saved this guy's life. How long were they in that hole after the nuclear explosion?
I don't know. I don't know.
Not long enough.
But that guy's dead, right?
Oh, yeah. He's got to be. But is that not the same guy? I thought that was...
it's the same guy.
So how, like...
The old man is the same guy he rescued in the hole in Nagasaki.
I definitely read it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And
there's no other way to take it. His face is all burned up too, which happened in the hole. So, but radiation's killing that guy, right?
For sure. I just watched Fallout. Like, there's no way this guy survives. Like, I mean, Fallout, Chernobyl. Also, where were they getting food? What food did they have in the hole? Was Wolverine crawling out and getting
Wolverine's
rations?
cutting off pieces of his skin, grilling him, feeding him to this guy, and then letting it grow back.
That's disgusting. That's absolutely revolting and probably right.
They just started a little fire down there and hung out. I think even if he's down there, like, isn't radiation going to get in there? And
yeah,
I don't know. These areas weren't safe to visit for like decades, right?
Yeah.
So this guy has to hunker down for decades, or he just leaves and risks going or something like that. I don't know. I
guess he just leaves, maybe he just had this really intense medical team that fought all this off as long as they could. And then now at the very end, it's like, hey, we can't do anything. We've got you, the best, brightest, hottest, most objectifiable doctors in the world. And even they can't do anything to treat this.
It is also kind of funny to me. And this is a fun trope, is like, oh, I saved this guy. Years later, he is the most successful whatever in his country.
Yeah.
It's like, why? This is like some loser who like didn't have the balls to kill himself. He's a coward and he ran away, and all of a sudden he grew a backbone and is making top tier business decisions. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the character at the beginning of the movie is the same kind of person who could do that.
Wolverine,
unless he's just a truly selfish person.
Wolverine changed his life, man. Have you ever, I feel like we've talked about this before. Have you ever had something happen where someone tells you that a piece of advice you gave them really meant something to them, and you, for the life of you, cannot remember saying the thing? I feel like you've told me you had that happen with somebody before. Like,
that's definitely happened.
They'll like quote knowledge back to you and you'd be like, wow, that's really great. Would you hear that? And they're like, oh, you told me that 5 years ago. It's like, I don't remember that. Don't remember that one bit.
I based my life off of that.
Yeah.
I do think about that all the time, because it's like, I was like quoting. I was like, I got this piece of advice crossed my mind recently. And I was like, yeah, that's a great saying. Who told you that? Oh, my friend in college, the like 19-year-old kid gave me advice that me as a grown up is following. And it's like, great. Well, where's my friend now? It's like, oh, yeah, he killed himself. So why am I taking the advice of a 19-year-old guy?
I'm sorry for your loss.
It is sad. It's genuinely sad, but it is also funny.
Oh my God.
It's funny. Maybe a mentally unwell person that I am like today being like, yeah, but he said that thing, and I should stick to that forever.
He's your Wolverine.
He's my Wolverine, and I have to become a successful businessman. In case it turns out he's been alive this whole time, and I'm going to try and steal whatever made that happen.
Jesus, this is dark. However you want to process, man, I'm here for you.
Thanks, dude. Thanks. This is helping. Talking it out is good. But yeah, it's weird how what sticks to us. I found that with like my folks too, where it's just like, I had a weird thing with my mom where I never got to drive the car when she was in it. She was like, because, you need your permit and then someone's got to sit in the passenger seat. My mom couldn't do it. She's a terrible passenger. She's slamming on the air brake. She's screaming. It's like, it's insane. It's like a cartoon or something like that. She could not be in the car with me while I was driving. And then like 10 years later, I got home and I was like, she's like, oh, I'm driving the car. And she's like, oh, can you take me to the grocery store? And she got in and I drove. And for me, this was like, oh, my God, I'm finally in the car. My mom is here. She's not freaking out. This is great. And I mentioned it to her and she's like, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I've been in the car. And I'm just like, no, you don't get, this is a thing. This was like an achievement for me and it meant nothing to her.
Yeah.
And, we just absorb all that kind of stuff. I'm sure everyone's got that.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Damn.
Do you have one? Do you have like a piece of advice or like a...
No,
okay.
I can't think of one. I know that they're there. I can't think of one prompted right now. I've certainly had experiences where I've brought up things that have happened to my parents and they've been like, nope. And it's like, a lot of my personality is based around the fact that this happened. I'm 100% positive. And yeah, just nothing for them.
This was the most pivotal moment of my childhood. I think you'd remember. Yeah.
No, we all experience things differently. I do have a question about, while we're on the topic of this big final Silver Samurai battle. Wolverine says the line, "You asked me to say goodbye, sayonara." Is that racist? I think that's racist.
Sayonara. What is that? Is that Japanese?
I think it's Japanese for goodbye. It feels, when it's being used in the context of a snarky one-liner you say before you kill someone, feels like it's an insult. So I feel like to use his culture back at him in order to kill him, I feel like it's probably racist. I know you and I as two white guys are not the best judges of this, but still, it feels racist.
Well, Wolverine's racist. I think we can say that with full confidence.
100% certainty. People talk about this with Captain America, but like Wolverine's even older.
You know how like every old person is like more racist than like we are. Like the older generation, like each older generation is more racist. Like we're getting out of it. We're slowly, I think, for a lot of people, just getting better generationally. As humanity, we are just growing more and more tolerant and more open-minded. And I think we're trending the right direction overall. Yeah. But yeah, it's like anyone in their 60s is like pretty racist. And he is in his 200s. He fought for the Civil War. I don't know what side. He fought in Vietnam. You're telling me he's the one guy in Vietnam who wasn't racist? Yeah. Sure.
Oh my God.
These were heated conflicts he's a part of.
Can you imagine a situation in which Wolverine is opening up to a younger ex-person and they're asking him about the wars that he fought, and he's like, yeah, I was in the first war I was in was the Civil War. And they're like, wow, that had to be incredible. And he's like, well, they were asking too much of us. Oh, do you still have your uniform? Yeah, it's probably not as gray as it used to be. Gray as it used to be.
Yeah, states' rights.
I'm really invested in like a one-shot comic where Jubilee is like slowly, it's just like a Black Mirror for Jubilee, where she slowly realizes the Wolverine fought on the wrong side.
Yeah, Wolverine definitely fought members of Jubilee's family.
Damn. Let me ask you this about Wolverine too. I've been going through and watching the cartoon because I wanted to get to X-Men 97, but I know I don't have to, but I do want to watch the other seasons first.
Yeah, I'm going to keep telling you don't have to. It's tough. It
is tough. But there's a lot of little details that are weird. Like in the Days of Future Past episode, Wolverine is walking past the graves of all the other X-Men. And the one that really shakes him up is Jubilee. And it cuts back to his face and he goes like, "Arr." And I mean, is that just like them using Jubilee as a Kitty Pryde proxy for the cartoon because she's not around? Or like, am I missing out? Is there like a massive Jubilee and X-Men friendship that I have forgotten about?
I feel like we've talked about this before where, I mean, I always thought it was Kitty Pryde. I think at some point, I know the cartoon went with Jubilee. I think then at some point in the comics, they did like a Wolverine Jubilee thing. Okay. I vaguely remember that, but I think Wolverine and Kitty Pryde immediately.
Yeah. I mean, they're the duo.
Now he's doing a thing with Armor. did the thing with X-23. I mean, he is a great reluctant mentor to a wayward kid.
Yeah, he's a girl dad, man. You know, Wolverine
he's
simp,
a girl dad.
Simp, fuckboy, girl dad.
Yeah, he's a great girl dad. I'm all about Wolverine girl dad. He needs it. He needs that. He needs that to keep him grounded.
Oh, big time. Yeah, I'm way more invested in Wolverine's relationships that are fully like platonic mentor-mentee than I am with any kind of Wolverine romantic relationship. It just absolutely always falls flat for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if he rubs me as a sexual human being, but I'm sure he is. But he's so gruff and hyper masculine and but in like a way where it's like, you know, like him and his friends and Nam experimented.
Yeah.
But
like he's like Top Gun Butch. Like he's like, he's got some closeted energy. Absolutely. It's super mad. This guy's been around. Wolverine has for sure experimented. Like I'm more in on like bi or like pan Wolverine.
200 years in, you know, you're going to be like looking for new experiences. You got to take them where you can get them. Yeah. Well, I don't think we acknowledge Wolverine as the symbol of tolerance that he very racist, but as far as sexuality is concerned, he is an open book. And a good hang. Do we have anything else to say about the Wolverine, the movie?
Let's see.
I just want to keep doing these pods and just talking about Wolverine as a character. It's so great. He's fascinating.
He is fascinating. I'm bothered. We've already talked about his relationship with Mariko a lot, but like Lauren and I always joke around about movies having what we call dead wife footage, where it's always like this like sun bleached footage. There's like beautiful rays of white light pouring in, and it's always like white covers, and they're under the covers, and they're, you know, playing around with each other, winking at each other. The movie Her has like the most iconic sequence of dead wife footage possible. John Wick, like all these things. If you see that early in a movie, you know that wife is dying. And you cannot kiss Mariko if you are having dead wife footage play in your head about somebody else. You can't do it. If you're having the dead wife footage play, you're still in that relationship. Doesn't even matter if you were never in a relationship.
I think that's proof of why this movie is weird, is because Wolverine doesn't really have an arc in this. There could be an arc of him getting over the loss of Jean Grey, which is already pretty ill-conceived, but she's only at the beginning, right? Or she shows up like once or twice, but it'd be one thing if Mariko is this like rebound, I guess, that like re-energizes him, or she opens up, you know, him to be in love again, or he now figures out kind of what he needs to do. And I don't know. There's something about that like redemption arc that we don't really get. It's certainly not the driving force in the movie. You know, Wolverine is not the driving force in this movie. Things happen to him. He does not happen to things in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did think there's some line in it where the girls are like explaining something to him, like, oh, the sword fighting, Dad made us wait till we were 15. And I just in my head was picturing Wolverine going, and then did he make you wait till you were 18? Like trying to get, like, just want to make sure, got to double check this. Because these are young looking ladies.
Yeah. It's always weird with his age.
Yeah.
It's always weird. At the very least, like maybe in the MCU, he'll like meet up with some Eternals and it'll be a little bit less weird. Like if you pair him up with like Angelina Jolie, I'm a lot more comfortable with that age gap.
Yeah, I think so. That, two immortals just hanging out together.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is also weird that Mariko at the beginning of the movie is willing to just throw herself from the top of a building. Like that's where she's at in her life. And he stops her from doing this thing. And then it's like, after that, she seems pretty fine and chill, you know?
He's her Wolverine.
They don't talk about it. There's no, what the fuck was that? She's just like, well, we'll go to the country, you know?
That is a good point. He doesn't try to get her help.
Yeah, there's no helping. Just passionate lovemaking. On that note, a Wolverine.
Listener, what did you think of the Wolverine? Was it pretty much in line with what we all thought? Let us know. Send us an email, nerdy430@gmail.com. We'll read it on the show. We will be back here again next week. I think we get back into the actual X-Men franchise next week, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, Jesus. It's Days of Future Past, baby. I love this one.
Yeah.
I'm stoked for this one. We will see you there. And until then, stay nerdy, everybody.
Stay nerdy. Bye. These are just going to get more and more unhinged.
Yeah, we're only part of the way through. By the time we hit New Mutants.
Something the Japanese get right better than Americans is the compound. I love a Japanese compound.
Oh,
open
sick.
gardens.
Ooh, they're great.
Sliding doors, like they get that. He walks in and I'm like, Daddy's home. This is great.
Yeah. No, American compounds, terrible. It's just cult shit. It's like Waco, Texas. You look like everything's furnished by Kirkland brand. Terrible, terrible compounds. Thanks for listening, everybody.